It's not surprising that I started to feel close to God in the garden. And many of the people that I talk to also tell me that they feel close to God in the garden. Because firstly, so much of what we do in the garden is done in the position of prayer. We get down to weed, we kneel, we pull out roots, and we feel we're pulling out sins and things from the ground. But just a very clear sense of the closeness of God. Exposure to the earth actually boosts our happiness and strengthens our immune system. Getting your hands dirty actually increases your serotonin levels. When you contact the soil, believe it or not, when you breathe in that wonderful loamy smell of the soil, it actually gives you a physical high because there are substances in the soil that really act as antidepressants, almost like a natural drug that is meant to make us happy. There is no part of this world that is as teeming with life as the soil is. In every square inch of soil, there are millions and millions of organisms. And it's because of that life that, of course, the soil then gives life to everything in creation too.
Okay, first thing I want to say is there are some things about that. Oops, see, this is, come on. I got to stop this.
What does that even mean?
Is there were some things in that short little video that I never knew, but it doesn't surprise me. The second thing is, I haven't seen rich, dark dirt like that since leaving Minnesota.
You're right.
True.
You gotta buy it in a bag now.
Yeah.
That's what the dirt looks like when you dig into it, when it's not sand. And
It's got earthworms in it.
Earthworms.
And the reason I invited Melinda today is because I know she's a gardener down here, probably lifelong in this neck of the woods. And I'm hoping that she can explain the conditions and growing seasons to me, because I can't figure them out. No matter when I plant something, it'll grow, but nothing will blossom or bloom. I can get green bean seeds to sprout and grow in 3 days, which is amazing to me. But then 3 months later, I haven't gotten a single bean to grow. So I'm hoping that there's some insight there. We've asked Eleni today to talk about how to teach about the importance of gardening and finding God in the garden to preschoolers. Susan is going to talk about, and Nikki, I hope she can join us, but if she can't, Susan is going to talk about, first off, the Indialantic Garden Club. And Nikki is Susan, I'll let you explain what the organization is that the Garden Club supports.
Yes, it's Serene Harbor. It's a domestic violence center, and we have a partnership. Our club has had a long-standing partnership with Serene Harbor, and Nikki represents. She's not the director, but she's, I believe, the director of marketing and fundraising coordinator.
Okay, great. Well, Eleni, let's start with you. We'll go from youngest to oldest here in terms of.
Thanks a lot.
No, in terms of who is affected by the garden and how to get people into gardening and the earth, the importance of finding God in the earth. What you guys have built vegetable gardens. Talk us through how you work with the preschoolers regarding gardening.
Okay. This is Christy's computer, so I'm trying to figure it out. So in preschool, what prompted the garden beds was an outreach from our presbytery of a grant that said to, it was very vague. It was like to do something meaningful. And I was like, well, that leaves it up to a lot. But garden beds were something that I wanted to do, and I thought it would be a good outreach. We have children from ages 18 months to VPK, which is 5 years old. All of those ages like to play in dirt. All of those ages can get their hands dirty and plant something. So it really spans all different age groups. And the intent in that was to get their hands dirty, but to also incorporate, some congregation members, some board members. Melinda has helped us. We started this right before COVID. So it kind of put a little dent in our plans, how many people were going to be involved doing it. But we continued to implement it. VPK, especially the 4 and 5 year olds, they did some fall vegetables this previous fall. They did some pumpkins. There's a pineapple in there right now, and we have an herb garden as well. Last week in Kids in Action, we were actually supposed to plant some vegetables, but it was very wet. And so we're going to try to plant those next month. But the intent is to plant those. And while we're discussing that, discuss how not everyone has access to food all the time. That's food in the pantry, that their mom and dads go to the store and buy whatever they want. So the intent is a few things. It's to get the children to work together as a community with volunteers and church members. And then the other one is children will often, of course, eat what they have helped grow. So we have several children who are big fans of basil right now, and they take the basil off and just by itself eat it. And one of the moms posted a picture the other day on our Facebook. This little boy had a bunch of basil, and he said, "This is my lunch, Mom. It's my preschool basil." And so they get accustomed to new things, so they want to try these new things. So it's about health and cooking for them as well. And then the mission aspect is, we haven't yet, because due to COVID, we were out of school for quite a while. But once we get the gardens going again, hopefully next month, is we have been told by Melinda and others that, they will start producing maybe quicker and more abundantly than we expect. So we plan on donating our excess harvest to the sharing center. So we talk about that in preschool as well. So it kind of carries over lots of themes, because we do food drives and things like that at chapel and preschool. So for them to be able to grow something and then give it to people in need, it's important for them to know how they can be helpers, even though they're 2, 3, 4, 5 years old.
Melinda, what were you able to contribute to that in terms of, do you help them in terms of what vegetables?
Well, I maintain, there's a little garden down there that's been there forever. That's a little flower garden. And I maintain the flower garden weekly. I go 2 or 3 times a week, even just to water. And I put fresh flowers in there as time, over time, and kind of keep it looking, colorful. And then 2 other gentlemen and myself set up the beds. Lenny ordered the beds, and then we did the construction and put the dirt in. So, and I keep the area that we're going to plant, I keep it weeded so that, as Lenny said, we were going to do some planting last Wednesday, but the weather wasn't cooperative. But I've got everything ready to go. Whenever she gives the go ahead, I'll come down and help the children put the seeds in. We were going to do carrots, radishes, lettuce, and onions. And so we're ready to go as soon as we get the opportune time to put them in.
Yeah.
So
up north, I know people, the joke is that if you plant a garden, no matter what you plant, always plant zucchini so you can count your garden a success.
well, that too. I may get some of that and do that actually. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'm the only one, I think, who ever planted zucchini who that didn't produce a single.
Oh, really?
I'll tell you a little zucchini story. Our backyard some years ago, we decided to do vegetables, including zucchini. And when fall came, we would pick them and eat them and give them away. You know, there's jokes about that too, but I'll pass. Anyhow, finally in the fall, it came time to clean out the zucchini bed, the whole garden, clean the whole thing out and get rid of all the refuse. And I found zucchinis in there that were so big, it almost was a 2-man job to pick them
Oh,
up.
yeah.
Buried
Wow.
underneath the leaf storage.
Wow.
Stunned.
The
I
best
was
zucchini, the best zucchini story I have, my dad used to have a walking mail route for 25 years. He was a postal letter carrier and he walked. And one fall, somebody had out by the driveway a big bushel basket full of zucchini sitting on a chair with a sign on it, free. When he came back later that day, the bushel basket was on the ground and somebody had taken a chair. So,
oh gosh.
so anyway, I sorry I went off on zucchini like that, but
Everyone's got a zucchini story.
yeah, they do. Okay, Susan, talk to us about the Indialantic Garden Club.
Yes, I'd be happy to. So our garden club's been in existence for a long time. We have a lot of church members who are actually part of the garden club, and I've worked very closely with Pam Dunn as the current committee chairs for Lily Park. And if you don't know where Lily Park is, it's at the corner of 8th Avenue and Riverside Drive. And our club has been taking care of that park in conjunction with the town of Indialantic for as long as I can remember. I've been a member of the garden club for about 15 years. And we've seen it change and grow, and kind of what happened to us during this pandemic was we couldn't meet as a club, and doing work and maintaining, the park was one of the things that we could do safely and, stay connected and feel safe being outside and distanced and, and doing that. And the park was coincidentally in need of a lot of renovation and upgrading. And so it was just the perfect segue into doing that. So we have really honestly spent the last year tuning up the park in many ways. And the mission of the club really is that park is supposed to be an interactive educational park. And for me, when I go to that park, and part of the reason I've been like the Lily Park chair for now about 5 years is because it does make it's true. It makes you feel close to God. To me, there's no other place than the garden that creates, one of the big things that we have in there is a butterfly garden. Mm-hmm. And, what a beautiful representation of the life cycle of the butterfly. And we have focused a lot of the educational aspect of the park around that butterfly garden. And just to give you an idea of some of the things that we've done in the last year, we put a crushed coquina path right through the middle of that butterfly garden. And we've created, 2 sitting areas. We've focused on Florida native plants, which Rick, those are the ones that are supposed to grow in the
I know.
in the crummy soil.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that we have. What's happened, and this is another beauty of the garden. Not only do you reap, vegetables, flowers, from the bounty of the garden, but it has become almost like a community effort. As we've been doing different projects in the park, like I'll give you an example. We've created an herb garden out of cinder blocks. And it just so happened that the town, Joe Gervais, who's the head of like the maintenance, he's done that before, and he helped us do that and create it. And we love that because people of the community, as they're coming through the park, when there's an open spot, it's there to pick them, to plant them, interactive in that regard, and that's pretty cool.
How do you keep the animals out? I have trouble with certain, I mean, I have raised beds. I joke that every year, Betsy gets mad because every year my raised garden box gets one tier higher. I just keep adding boards to, because at my age, I don't do anything near the ground anymore.
Yeah.
I try to raise it up to
We haven't really had any problem with animals per se, more insects. And we kind of look at it as that's part of the natural life cycle, and we have to be willing to put up with caterpillars eating a plant to the ground, and being patient and waiting for it to come back. And actually we're like with anticipation waiting for the spring right now, for everything to start to come back. And we have really learned a lot during this, this process. And the other part, and Lenny might be interested in this, where'd she go? We were able to get a free little library through the United Way. And the idea is it's a blue little library right along one of the walkways, and it's a give a book, take a book. And it would be a wonderful little field trip, I think, for even the preschool kids. So it's not just about plants. It's we're trying to encompass a whole educational experience over there.
It's a stunning garden. It's beautiful.
It's real. It is. I've been there, and it's just worth going. So pretty and so godlike.
Thank you.
What time are the butterflies there? I mean, what time of year would it be best for to see the butterflies?
Yeah, it's going to be starting in the spring and go straight through the summer and the fall. The winter, I mean, we have them year round.
Yeah, and they are year round.
Yeah, we don't have as many, flowers blooming right now. There's things that are dormant right now, but we've created a water source for them. We strategically planted different things to attract and support. One in particular is the long-winged zebra, which is our state butterfly. If you didn't know that, you learned that today.
I do. Yeah. Eleni, is it something that you could walk the kids up there too, or?
That would be a field trip, which we are not allowed to do unless the parents go with them. So,
You could tell the parents about it though. Just give information to the parents and they could take their children.
Yeah.
We could do that. Yeah, we do have walking field trips, which are always nice. Like we walk the children over to the fire department. So like the older children, the VPK children. So I feel like we could do a walking field trip to the garden.
And I would be happy to volunteer we're working on doing a docent type thing, because I can take you on a tour, and gear it to whatever age that is. And and we're also working on a self-guided tour with a QR code where, that would be more geared to adults for plant identification through the park. So
that's cool. And we do every spring we get butterflies and we grow we have the milkweed in the garden. We put butterflies in every classroom. They have them in their little nets. So that might correspond really well with that time of spring.
I know up in Minnesota, monarch butterflies are prolific because there's still enough places out in the prairie where there's milkweed everywhere. And in the fall, probably around late summer, early fall, they will migrate through by the thousands as they head down to Mexico. And I remember being at an outdoor picnic years ago in a neighbor's yard. It was one of these national night out picnics or something. And you couldn't eat a hamburger because monarch butterflies were landing on your food. I mean, it was gorgeous, but okay, enough already. I'm hungry here. So, Melinda, let's talk about flowers. What flowers do you plant?
I have a lot of hibiscus and, hibiscus that, bloom. Actually, they bloom all year round. I've just planted those against my back wall as a barrier to the street too. And I do a lot of, I can't even think of what I'm doing right now. I don't have any. I do some, would you believe, hydrangeas. My mother had gorgeous hydrangeas in Tennessee, but they've lost their blossoms now, but they'll come back. I do them in planters. And I had gorgeous blue ones last year. They were just stunning.
Wow.
And pentas, I'm very successful with pentas. I have, pots of pentas around my patio. They're not doing too well right now, but they'll be coming back soon. In fact,
The butterflies love the
they
pentas.
do. And I've just replanted. I found that by top dressing some of my older plants, they thrive. There are some that I thought were dying, and I put some potting soil on top, and they're just really blossoming now. They're doing very well. And so, marigolds are pretty right now, but they're seasonal. But just whatever looks good, and the color, I try to, match colors and that kind of thing. And I do get a lot of butterflies. My idea of a garden, though, is a formal English garden, having lived in England many years ago when my dad was stationed there. So I do have in my backyard a little square of a formal English garden, just to bring back the memories and the fun with boxwood and a fountain in the middle for the birds, and very little square, kind of little English, but that's about as far as it goes.
Melinda, what is
Yeah.
that? What is that plant that you always donate for our, when we make flower arrangements or centerpieces at church, the curly leaf, beautiful.
Yes, I do not, it's kind of a wild plant, and I have hedgerows. I keep hedgerows, small hedgerows, because I pick them constantly and put them in a vase in my own house. And they're just pretty leaves. And I'll have to look it up again, Susan. I just totally don't remember what it's called, but it does have a name. But I do have about 4 areas that I keep a little hedge of them. And you can't hurt them. You can cut them back to the ground. They come up beautifully again. And I always put vases at church with those, and then stick flowers in them.
I love them. That's
They
a
are
good segue for me to,
Yes,
Rick,
yep.
would you mind if I explain what the Garden
No,
Club
please.
does with Serene Harbor?
Please do.
Yeah, so the reason that we had invited Nikki is the Garden Club has had a relationship with Serene Harbor forever. And what we do is we provide Serene Harbor with a fresh flower centerpiece for their dining room table at the center, where they house victims of domestic violence. They take care of women, now children, and pets. And I mean, these poor women are in a desperate situation, and they can be there for months and months and months. And the Garden Club's idea of doing that was, as an outreach of showing them that somebody cares for them, that they're worthy. And how you feel when you receive fresh flowers, and they sit at that table and have fellowship together. So that's just a small way that we can kind of show them some love. And we also, we only meet monthly, and when we meet, we also collect toiletries, pantry items, different things that the center can use, and we always donate to them. And Nikki and the director had just this month at our meeting did a wonderful presentation about how Serene Harbor has grown. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with that center. But I don't want to speak for her. Unfortunately, it looks like she lost her connection. But they have told us, how much that means to those ladies to know that. And what's really cool is that now that we've got Lily Park kind of up and going, what we try to do is take things out of the garden and create a centerpiece out of those things. Sometimes we put herbs in it, the greens. If we don't have anything blooming, we may go get a bundle from Publix, but then the greens and the rest of the elements in the arrangement are from our garden, and that's pretty special too.
Now, do the local garden clubs, I know the statewide Federation of Garden Clubs have them, but is there an education arm that you guys, like, do you have, like, at your monthly meetings, is there always an education component to it?
Absolutely. In fact, we have somebody who's in charge of our programs, our monthly programs, and it's a diverse subject matter, but we always bring in somebody to educate it. It could be about bees, succulents, pollinators. It could be things like flower arranging, soil. I mean, over the years we've had, so definitely that's a huge component. We bring it in, and then now we're trying to educate others, especially with all the research and everything we've done with the native gardening. And that garden at Lily Park is probably, I would say, about 80% native.
I was, when you mentioned native before, I was very happy. A couple of years ago, we were still snowbirding down here, but we knew we were going to move. And in Place in O'Galley had this, I think it was like this Brevard County organizational convention where all kinds of organizations that you could join had booths in the auditorium. So we went and I talked to the people at the garden club. And I think it was maybe the Melbourne Garden Club or something. And I was very happy to hear, even though we were going to be moving into a very controlled environment in a new housing development being put up, a gated community and everything. And but I was happy to hear that by state law, if you want to tear out your lawn and go native, as long as you can become certified native plant, and nobody and the HOAs can't stop you. As long as you're working towards certification. Now the neighbors might hate it, all these nice green lawns, and then all of a sudden right in the middle of it is our house with sand and scrubby native plants. But by state law, the native, they can't stop you. The HOAs can't do anything about you going native. So
yeah, that's true. We have one in our neighborhood, and we have the same situation with the HOA.
Sorry, somebody. Okay, go on. So your HOA, are they stopping people, Susan, or?
No, but it's beauty in the eye of the beholder.
True.
I happen to think it's quite beautiful, and many people who are much more tailored think it's atrocious. So,
well,
but no, they can't stop them.
And when I talked to this lady at the booth about, because I thought, what a neat idea, I'd love to do that. She said, understand this, it's a lot harder to maintain because you not only plant native plants to be certified, you have to keep the non-native plants out. So you're working your yard a lot more out there, making sure that the plants that don't belong have been removed. But it is a very scruffy looking landscape. And I know when the handful of times that I've been up to the National Seashore, on North Merritt Island or wherever it is, that is all native plants up there, or as much as possible anyway. And it's a very scruffy looking type of plant life.
Yeah, we were fortunate that we didn't have to go 100% native, and we've received some really great grants. We were really proud to say that we received $1,000 grant from the National Garden Club. And, they appreciate our effort of using native plants, but didn't force us to do it 100%. So, it's not quite as scruffy as it normally would be. But natives are interesting too, because they have definite strong seasons. Most of them, some of it right now, like in fact, I can think of one that's just really a cool ground cover called Sunshine Mimosa. It completely died out in the winter. And now, I'm like anxiously waiting because, we did a pretty good investment of putting that in, and I'm like, please come back. So I'll be on my knees praying for that one.
Wait until it grows back. Yeah. So Eleni, out in the area, well, first I should just ask, do you ever take the kids out to just kind of walk the grounds, looking at around the plants and everything?
All the time. what, there we go. Sorry. Yes, all the time they go for nature walks. It's one of their favorite activities to do, and especially through the memorial gardens. We take them through the grounds in and out. You know, we take them upstairs when there's art upstairs to appreciate the art. We take them all over the grounds. We can't go across the street where the river is, but a lot of the times we'll stand kind of at the edge and admire it. When the rain comes over, we talk about how the rain, often comes from across the river, so you can see it coming. And we admire all the plants, and then the little frogs. One of the toddler classes had little tadpoles that were in the water by the memorial garden, and they watched those grow. So very
I don't know what's happening. With this
outdoorsy
thing.
into
They're not
nature.
coming up. Right?
Yeah, some of them did. Some of them.
Nope, they're all super flat.
And I was confused.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. So
Yeah, I don't know either. But yeah, they really enjoy that. They really enjoy being outside. We do the butterflies, we do the gardening. It was a cute little, and I think talking about animals in nature is important too, not just the gardening aspect, but all living creatures is something that we talk about often.
It tastes good.
We have, pettings, we have a teacher who has a lot of animals, so she will come in and have her one woman petting zoo just with her pets. And just explain to them. A funny little tidbit is that I had a little girl, Evelyn, when she was 3 years old, and now Evelyn is probably 11. And when Evelyn was 3 in my class, I would always tell them, like, they're God's creatures and you can't go outside and step on an ant. Like, what if someone came in your house to step on you? Like, this is where they live, and I would always tell them that these are God's creatures. So, the one time I found a lizard in our classroom or a bug in our classroom, and I would have to, scoop it up and put it outside. Yeah. And so she was 3. So when she was in 1st grade, her mother texted me and said, "You wouldn't believe what Evelyn just said. There was a huge spider in our house and I went to go kill it." And Evelyn said, "You can't kill it, Mom. It's one of God's creatures." Miss Eleni said, "Don't hurt God's creatures." She's like, "So thank you. I had to go catch a spider and release it."
Well, I've got to tell you, quite honestly, Betsy gets mad at me because she hates spiders and I won't kill them. I will kill them. They are the most beneficial creatures.
Yeah.
To us, but I can understand people hate them and just get rid of them any way you can. We've had some preliminary discussions, which means that it was between me and one other person probably, about putting a labyrinth out in the lawn near the oak tree. The lawn that's doesn't really get used that much for anything. And putting a labyrinth in, a walking labyrinth, and then gardening around it. Would such a thing be possible? Is it a good idea?
It's hard to maintain because of the watering, and number one, there are some preschool other schools than ours that use. There's a lady that comes and plays and sings, and the mothers bring their children on blankets and sit around under the oak tree for almost once a week, if not twice a week. And so sometimes the yard out there is used.
Yeah.
With people bring their blankets, and as I said, but there is a particular pre-nursery group that comes.
Deborah. Yeah. Deborah.
What is it?
Deborah.
Yeah.
She does it once a week, but she also hosts class for preschool. So we have an outdoor music class on that.
Yeah, and it's such a pretty open space. I would hate to see that go, because I think we have enough plantings around the church anyway.
Yeah.
That oak tree and enough to take care of.
It is something that we use for things like when we're going to have a family game night coming up.
We like that space.
Easter egg hunts.
Recommendation.
So it just
Hopefully church picnics.
The location and the size of it, but yeah.
I would recommend, can you guys hear me?
Just tell them.
Matt.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. I would recommend, I was actually the one that thought of the idea.
Matt,
Just look at it.
why don't you turn that off and come on over here?
Oh, here, I'm gonna fix this real fast.
There you go. You're gonna turn it to.
Okay, I was echoing apparently.
You still are.
Yep.
You're just gonna have to turn that off.
There we go. I was echoing a little bit. So one of the things I found is Crossroads Community Church, which is a United Church of Christ congregation. That's over off, I believe off not Post Road, Sarno, I think, or not Sarno, one of those roads. But anyway, they have a beautiful labyrinth that they did with hardscaping and landscaping. So it's got grass, different types of native grass in between like different stones and recycled concrete. So that would be neat to visit, and it's very compact. So it could, something like that could probably fit like between the manse, right up against the manse, and kind of in that empty spot that's there. So it could leave the area open. So there's some interesting options I've seen online with those. So, oh, and Cordelia's here.
We also have that beautiful area under the oak tree with the benches, you know, that whole area right there is, and people go and sit there. So, you know, it's already there.
Lots of
And
options.
it would be something that we would just, you know, the stones or something would be sunk down. It could be mowed right over, so it wouldn't take a lot of anyway.
So that's just an idea.
Just, yeah, that's as far as the conversation has gone and likely will go. So
just a question, when you talk about a labyrinth, are you talking about one of those big circular things where people walk around and meditate
yes,
with
yes.
them? Okay, because those have to be fairly large, I think, to be effective. But I had a friend that she was doing that, and she was praying for patience, and there was somebody else ahead of her going too slow, and she was muttering about, why is this lady going so slow? I don't have all this time to be doing this. And so she was praying for patience, and she was muttering about the slow person in front of her. But I think they do take up, I would think, a fairly large amount of space to be effective for it. I don't know. I've never really looked at the issues.
Well, it's not something that's going to happen anytime soon, and a lot more thought has to go into it than a few people talking about it here. But anyway, it has come up. So we're ready to wrap up. Any additional thoughts? Anything you'd like to say about getting involved in things? Susan, maybe you can talk. How do you get involved in any garden club?
1040.
You're muted.
You're on mute. Yeah, you're on mute. Yep. Just press the space bar.
There.
Thanks.
How's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, our particular garden club, it is limited to 55 members only because we're a little old school and we still meet in people's homes. And so that's why, you know, it has a certain boundaries, which is the O'Galley Causeway, basically to the southern edge of Melbourne Beach as far as membership. But we're certainly open and always looking for new members. We belong to the Florida Federation of Garden Clubs, which is our state garden club. And most of the clubs, I know that there's many garden clubs in our area. Indian Harbor Beach has one in Harbee. And a lot of us local ones on the beach side and the mainland, we belong to the South Brevard Garden Club. And we attend our club. We have a representative that goes to those meetings and that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, if anybody's interested, I can certainly get you hooked in that way. And I can I show Eleni something? Oh, all of you. Can you all see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
This was my friend Lori. She teaches at Coastal Community School, and I had a field trip with her kids at the park, and they are bent down touching sunshine mimosa. And Eleni, that would be an excellent thing for you guys to plant because sunshine mimosa is a ground cover and it's very, very delicate. However, it's very strong because when you step on the leaves or you touch the leaves, which I was having them do, they immediately fold up on each other to protect itself so it doesn't break. And so it was really fascinating. I had the kids, you know, around the side, and I just taught them to touch it like that, and immediately, you know, the leaves closed up, and they thought that was the coolest thing ever. And anyway, so that's a great a little teaching tidbit for you.
Venus flytrap.
Yeah, kind of.
Is this too late in the season to plant herbs? I just put some in yesterday.
Absolutely not.
No,
Absolutely
No.
not. I'm doing the
You're
same
ri-
thing right now. Mhm.
Yeah, right on time.
Yep.
And if any of you walk through Lily Park and you see an opening in the herb garden and want to have some bounty or want to, throw something in, be our guest.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody, very, very much. This has been a
It was fun.
really entertaining conversation. We could do this every week or once a month anyway. Let's not go overboard, Rick. See, this is where Betsy just shakes her head. But anyway, thank you, Eleni, Susan, Melinda, thank you very much. Susan, please thank Nikki for giving it a try, and we're sorry.
I will. She texts me her apologies.
Yeah, it's fine. So thank you. Next week, we're going to have a guest leading us through spiritual disciplines, spiritual practices for for Fred Talks, disciplines. But please join us. It'll be online. I don't know that we're going to try to do it in here. She's going to be joining us from Minnesota, actually. An old friend, been doing this for years.
Cool.
Please plan to join us, and thank you, and God bless you all for the week.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Rick.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.